Hey everyone, welcome back to the garden. Kind of. I'm inside right now because it's very cold outside. I think it's 29 degrees and it feels like 17. The wind is howling. But anyway, so today I want to chat a little bit more about areas I want to focus on in 2025. Not garden projects per se, not like what we talked about in the last video. These are just a couple of areas that could use a refresh or a bit of a spruce up, removing poor performers in one of the bed and replacing them with something better. And in another bed, add a couple of evergreens for winter interest, and then one area where I feel like we need more screening. So that's going to involve some evergreens too. So come garden with me today and let's go visit those places quickly. Okay, so one area is at the top of the property. Two areas are kind of out front. So the two areas out front should be relatively quick. I think we could probably talk about those just out here. The one up at the top of the property, adjacent to our meadow, requires a little bit more of a plan. So we'll take that to my drawing board inside. So let's go out front. The first spot is in front of the gate out here. I'll show you what that looks like and then why I think we need to add. This is the spot I would think we need to add evergreen and talk about what kind of evergreen. So this is the area right here in our the most challenging bed on our property because it's underneath an enormous Norway maple. It's really dry in here. There's a lot of root competition, and you can see there's really nothing here other than the remains of the plants that have gone dormant. So this is where I think we need an evergreen. And because we have some snow on the ground, I know you can't see right now, but underneath here, there are 4 peppermint spice heucheras, which I absolutely love. But I feel like this bed right here, it's a little bit too challenging for them and they kind of get smaller every year. And I think this is where we need an evergreen or even a couple. Looking at it right now, let's go look at it from the other direction. So here we are looking at it from the opposite direction. And you can see other than the sticks of the Tough Stuff Aha hydrangea and what is buried in the snow, the heuchera and the lady's mantle, just in this section there really isn't anything other than our Durunk boxwood. So I feel like right here we're going to be taking the heucheras out because like I said, they just don't do well with the root competition. And even though we have irrigation in this bed, they just don't seem to like it in here. So we'll reuse them someplace else. I really do like the peppermint spice heuchera. But looking at it out here now in winter where there is no foliage, I feel like we could use a couple of evergreens. Initially, I was thinking another boxwood, but since we have a Durunk boxwood, I don't know that I want another type of boxwood. So I thought maybe a couple of Duke's Garden plum yews, and I'll show you a picture of what they look like inside. They're quite drought tolerant, and they're also deer resistant because they are cephalotaxis instead of taxus. So that would give us a little bit more winter interest out here. The other bed is underneath our blue spruce. I think it's a blue spruce anyway, underneath or at the bottom of our property, the very bottom of our property. This is another little bit of a challenging bed because of the root competition. And even though we have irrigation under here, a lot of the plants do seem to suffer a little bit. But I'll turn you around and I'll show you what plants I think we need to take out of here and replace. And while I'm here, I'll also show you, we do have a Duke's Garden plum yew down here. Here's the Duke's Garden plum yew. You can see how it grows. It's not an upright yew, it's more of a spreader. We haven't done anything to this plant down here. It's really done well, whereas a lot of the other plants in here have suffered a little bit. That one's done really well. So what I think we need to get rid of, or at least remove to container, see if we can revive it, this is a mountain laurel. I think it's called Raspberry Glow. And this is a variegated, or at least it was, because it's very, very tiny now, a variegated azalea. So again, I actually will talk a little bit more about this inside because it's freezing.
Hey guys, so we're finishing this video up inside. It's several days later. I apologize. I actually got the flu, so you're not going to see me on screen finishing up this video in a couple of clips. You'll just hear me. So here we are at the bottom of a property. This is the bed that has the azalea over here. This is the mountain laurel here. This is where we planted the 2 anemones late last season. And these are the 2 shrubs, the laurel and the azalea that I want to replace. I do feel like when we replace this mountain laurel, it can come out a little bit farther here. I feel like it's tucked way back in there with a lot of other shrubbery. I would like to replace these 2 shrubs since they are evergreen with evergreens. Now, I don't know what kind of evergreens. There are not that many evergreens that stay small and are flowering. Both, as you saw in the clip anyway, the picture that I inserted, the raspberry glow mountain laurel had pretty pink flowers and pink buds. This azalea, although I'm not sure what variety it was, had really pretty fuchsia flowers and it has variegated foliage. There are a lot of bulbs running through this bed, kind of like down through here. So there's tulips and they are also pink. So think I'd kind of like to stay with the pink theme. You can see here there's a gold heart dicentra that also has beautiful pink flowers. And then as you'll see, I'm going to roll this clip. We have a wee bit grumpy hydrangea that is also quite pink, even though the soil down here should be acidic, so it should be purple. But anyway, so we're going to roll this and we're just going to go through this bed really quick. So um, there's the mountain laurel close up, pretty dark foliage, shiny. There's the gold harp. By that time, it was done flowering. You can see there's a hosta, that's a Francis Williams. There's the Duke's Garden Plum Yew. And you should see now there's the wee bit grumpy. I'm going to pause that. So this we pulled out last year because in this bed is the spruce tree. I mean, you saw the trunk. I don't think it's a Colorado blue spruce. It might be a white spruce, but we're having it treated from needle cast. We have had it treated for several years. If any of you have watched my channel for any length of time, you heard me mention last year several times we have a new company treating our trees, and their treatment this year was twofold. But the first treatment they did was a plant growth regulator to stop the spruce tree from needle casting. So basically, it keeps the needles smaller so they don't get to the point where they cast. Well, this company did not tell me, and apparently their salesperson did not realize that that plant growth regulator is going to affect a lot of other plants, not just the tree in question. This wee bit grumpy was one of the plants that was really negatively affected. It just did not grow this year. So it looked nothing like this year. This is from 2023. So we pulled it out and we put it in a holding location. Late last year, it finally started to look like it was recovering. So I'm hoping that we can replace or reuse that in this bed. We did replace it with another one. You won't see it here, but I'll go back. I think it's here somewhere, somewhere in between the Duke's Garden Plum Yew and the Gold Heart Dicentra. So I'm hoping we can put the other wee bit grumpy back in here so that at least we have 2 of them for a little bit of consistency. Most things in here are repeated. So let's go forward slightly more. We'll get close on the azalea. And you can already see a couple of the branches died here. I feel like 2022, so we've had this plant for quite a few years. It was up in the other bed I showed you where the peppermint spice heuchera are and where I'll be adding, I hope to be adding a Duke's Garden Plum Yew. This was up there. Did not like the challenging conditions up here. We moved it down here. It did well for a year, literally a one season. And then I think that was in 2022. And then again, 2023 started dying back. This year, this past season, 2024, it was even worse. You saw it in the previous video clip. So Again, we'll put this in a container, see if we can bring it back to life. But again, I'd like to replace these two with something evergreen. I'm just not sure with what at this point. I think maybe another Duke's Garden Plum Yew. Yeah, you see, look how dry and horrible it was. It's in the poor thing. So that we have a Duke's Garden Plum Yew on the corner, on either corner of this bed. Again, they're not going to be flowering, right? Though, so the Wee Bit Grumpy we bought last year and put in is somewhere right in here. Maybe we put the other one. We just have to be careful of the bulbs. I'm not sure where, but we can fit it. They're not a big hydrangea. Replace the laurel with something out in the corner here, and replace the azalea with the Duke's Garden Plum Yew. And not again, I'm just throwing ideas around here, although I'm trying to keep some consistency. So that's what needs to be done in this bed. Just replace the evergreens that are not thriving down here.
Let's go up to the top of the property and I'll show you the third bed that I'm talking about. And this one will require more of a plan. So we'll sit down inside with my Excel spreadsheet for this one. Oh, goodness. I feel like I'm going to need a cup of hot cocoa when I get in the house after this. So the area I'm talking about is right behind the dead section of our fallen mulberry tree. This is a meadow. This is where we had a lot of ash trees, all died, had to take them all out. And you can see the houses up there. So this is where I feel like we need a little bit more screening. Just let's look real quick at what we do have. A couple of prog viburnums. I chose these because they are evergreen. We did lose one of them last year. So I would like to replace the one we lost. Move these 3 miscanthus grasses. And maybe put another prog viburnum in there. We have a lot more room up here than it looks, although I don't want anything that's going to get too large and take away our walking area here. You can kind of see where my shadow is. That's a path we take through here. So let's go inside now and talk about what I want to do up here. One thing I should mention is right here are 2 black walnut trees, so just keep that in mind with the plan. Whenever you have black walnut trees, you do have to plan around that.
I'm showing you here is strictly for comparison purposes. You know what the top of our property looks like at the moment. This is what it looked like before we even bought the house. So this is standing from the backyard looking up, and you can kind of see how dense the forest was back here, even though it was just a massive invasive vines, wineberry, multiflora rose, obviously a lot of ash trees that died, right, 5, 7, 8 years later. But um, even though it was just a mess up here and now it's empty, you can see the backdrop that it provided, right? It was kind of like a background against which all of our gardens that we would come along and plant in front here would pop. We don't have that anymore. That's what I'm trying to replace. For me, when I'm standing, say, even at my bottom retaining wall and I'm looking up, all I see is kind of like a blank spot. I see my gardens in front, but my eye goes right past them up to what is empty up here. So that's kind of why I'm trying so hard to regain some screening in this area. So here's my Excel spreadsheet. These are the 3 miscanthus grasses that we currently have up here. These are going to come out. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to reuse these miscanthus grasses. And even though these are very large and in the summer would provide a nice screen somewhere on the property, they're also very invasive. Don't know if I want that maintenance. So these represent the 2 prog viburnum, and I've tried to get everything here as close to their exact location as possible. This is the living part of the mulberry tree that has fallen that we have propped up. This is the dead part that I specifically requested be left because it is an architectural piece, and we have planted a native honeysuckle vine in front of it. This represents a boulder that was there just a boulder that has worked its way up from the ground. It's not a boulder we intentionally placed, but architectural feature will stay. Um, Again, these are the two existing prog viburnums. We will replace the one we lost with a third. Again, they are a large viburnum. They're evergreen in all but the most harshest climates. So and you can see two mature specimens here that have been pruned. They can be upright or they can just be kind of wild and rambling. Now, I would like the more, well, something in between because this is where these are located is edge of a more cultivated area going into a wilder area. So we may try to keep these pruned up a little bit. And you can see the new growth. Again, they're like a 10 by 10, so they would be a really nice screen once they start to grow in. They are small specimens now. This represents the flamethrower redbud we have up there, which is quite small at the moment, but in time it's going to be a 15 by 15-foot tree. So I don't want to plant anything in front of it that is going to require full sun because in time it's not going to get it. So, and I don't want to plant anything that is going to be too big. For example, green giant arbs, like you had seen, I mentioned that in the clip, because they will get, green giant arbs can get 20 feet wide in time. We just don't have the room here. I don't want to have to pull out anything that's here, like these two orange kind of star-shaped icons represent the little prospect witch hazels we have up here. They need mostly sunny conditions, so I don't want a green giant arb growing right over them. Again, this area is only about 10 to 12 feet wide, so we don't really have room for a shrub that's going to take up the whole space here. And I don't want anything that's going to take over the meadow behind here either. I do want to be able to see it. Um, this line represents roughly where the edge of the meadow is. Blue point junipers can get 10 by 6, so they're a sizable shrub, but not overly big. I think we have room here for a third, and hopefully it will be able to put on some growth before the flamethrower redbud gets too big and provides a little bit too much shade. So those are what I feel like we can do up here now without taking up too much room and spending too much of our budget on this area. I do feel like there are some things we can plant evergreen in front here, but it's not going to be anything that's going to get too large. And again, because we have two black walnuts growing here, I have to be careful with what we plant here. Prog viburnums are proven to be black walnut tolerant, as are Juniper chinensis, which is a Chinese juniper, which blue point junipers are. I may be able to source a couple of larger junipers for up here. We'll see. But so those are my ideas for now. Replace the viburnum that died, replace or add another juniper or two up here. Let's go outside again real quick so we can see the area that we're talking about. So here is where we would want to add a couple more junipers. I feel like if we have one here, the I know it's hard to see. We'll see it better a few seconds in. This cage right here is kind of where the red bud is. So again, that's going to be 15 by 15. So we don't want anything that's going to be shaded out eventually by that. But I feel like we can add another blue point juniper here and another one down here. So that would be four. If they get 6 feet wide, 10 feet tall, these are about, I'm going to say these are 4.5 feet tall at the moment. So if you figure 10 feet wide is up here, I mean 10 feet tall. So that's a nice size, 6 feet wide. No, they'll be 6 feet wide at the bottom. They're not going to be 6 feet wide at the top, but eventually this oak tree here is going to get big enough to provide some screening in the winter for us as well. Oak trees keep their leaves in the winter, as you can see here. Eventually, when it's wider, it will provide its own type of screening. This is a Annabelle hydrangea. There's another one down here. I'd like to add a couple more of those up here. Here's a little prospect witch hazel. One here. And I think this is the other one up here. Yeah. All right, let's push play on this again. Yeah, here's the other Annabelle hydrangea down here in the corner. You can see over here, and I think we'll go over there in a second. Here's the Annabelle. So you can see room here for definitely another blue point juniper or two down there, another one here. This is the honeysuckle in this cage I talked about to go over the log. Here's the two viburnums. So you can see there's two of them here. Now I do have to be careful with where I want to plant another one because the third one was over here. This area was very, very wet last winter because of all the rain. That's why we lost it. So I can't plant anything over this side that can't tolerate those kind of conditions. With Prague viburnum cannot. So we'll have to keep them over here. It tends to be a little bit higher. And inside here where the grasses are right now. So again, maybe one here, and you saw how tall those are going to get and wide. Maybe another one right here and another one right here. Again, these are about 3.5 feet tall, so 10 feet tall. Yeah, it's going to be pretty big in time. Again, these are three deciduous viburnums back in here. You can see the eastern white pines are coming into view now. So in time again, so these, if anybody's familiar with eastern white pines, I think we all are. Well, I shouldn't say all, most. Very, very sizable tree. So, this here is probably going to be out to here eventually. Those are going to take up this entire space. So I'm not too concerned about that area right here. So here again, put another viburnum here, one over here. That's the flamethrower in the cage. But yeah, let me know what you think. Again, it's not going to be a green wall. We could always add another holly or two too out here. We'll just see. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can put here that will be tolerant of the black walnuts. Um, so yeah, like I said, we'll see. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'm sorry again that you're not seeing me on the end part of this video, just because I have the flu, but hopefully you enjoyed, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.